Okay, we're now recording. So
Great.
everything we say will be held against us.
Great.
Catherine, thanks so much for taking the time to sit down with us today. Mark has shared some of the background with me, and
Okay.
as he said, we've partnered up with Cobb Technologies now for a few weeks, so they're very early on in the process, and that's why they're relying on M-Files resources at the moment to help their customers and help in the sales process, and even most likely would help in the initial 1 or 2 implementations that they do while their people are coming up to speed on the product. And we certainly aren't here to talk bad about any other products. There are some differences between what we bring to the table and, in this case, Square 9, as there are differences with lots of other products. But some of the differences are such that that's what motivated Cobb to search out and look for a new partner. And it's just really a good fit, and it's a perfect marriage. And so some of the things that we do, one of the reasons Cobb partnered with us is because M-Files, we offer a cloud solution as well as an on-premise solution. And they didn't get that from Smart Search. So other than that, there's a lot more differences in the product. And what I thought I would do is kind of just go through a little bit of background on who M-Files is and some information for you about our technology to kind of lay a foundation as we go into the demo. And I'll skip over a lot of this stuff because some of it's document management and 101 kind of stuff. So we'll try to get through it very quickly. But just so you know who we are and some information about us, and then get a understanding kind of our technology, and then we'll just jump right into the software and show you all the things that you want to see.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Perfect. So let's get started. So M-Files is a global company. We have our international headquarters in Finland, our North and South America headquarters in Dallas, Texas. We have thousands of customers all around the world in more than 100 countries. Our software is being used in 24 different languages. And we have, I think, close to 350 partners like Cobb helping us sell our product all around the world in more than 80 countries. And we have customers really of all sizes, Catherine. We have some customers that have upwards of 2,000 and 3,000 users, and in fact we've just closed some very large quality system deals with some very large pharmaceutical companies that will have over 10,000, 15,000 users when they're all said and done. But while M-Files is that scalable, the majority of our business is in the SMB space. So that's where we've been very strong in customers that have 5 to maybe 50 users. And that's because M-Files, there's 2 reasons really. M-Files is very tightly integrated with the Windows Explorer and the Microsoft Office suite, so it's very comfortable for most people to embrace. It's very easy to learn M-Files. The training is very easy. It's very short. And our typical implementations, are 5 days or less in most cases.
Okay.
And then the other reason is the fact that our pricing model is built for that small to mid-sized company. So, it makes it, again, something that's a very easy product to purchase, especially when it's an enterprise class product like M-Files. And we'll hit on that again here in just a minute, but we have lots of credibility, lots of case studies. That you can see all of these on our website. Pretty much any vertical market that you want to look at. We do a lot of work with everybody, and we're actually putting out new case studies virtually every week. So there's a tremendous amount of information about us out there. We have a lot of industry analyst acceptance. I don't know if you know who the Gartner Group is, or who Forrester Research is, or maybe Nucleus Research. Some of these people, they do a lot of evaluation of technology, and they actually sell reports about that technology to companies that are looking to invest. Now you can pull the Gartner information directly off of our website for no charge. And I'll spend just a few minutes talking about this. So here's the Gartner Magic Quadrant for Enterprise Content Management, and you can see there's 23 companies on here, and when you pull the report from our website, it'll actually list the names and show all the names of the companies. But here we first got evaluated by Gartner back in 2012, and you can see they put us on here down in this niche players space. And then when they evaluated us in 2013, you can see that we made a large move in completeness of vision over towards this visionaries category, or quadrant really, and that's where we want to end up. And the reason that we do, and because what's driving us here is the fact that M-Files is truly the only system on the market that's 100% metadata driven. Are you familiar with that term, metadata?
Yes.
Perfect. And then the other thing that's driving us here is the fact that we're doing so much development on our mobile technology, our mobile applications. And so, again, those are some things that are driving us into this visionaries. And then hopefully at the end of this year, when they look at us again, we'll show up here somewhere in this visionaries quadrant as we continue to grow, gain market share, and climb on up. But this is kind of the one slide where I talk a little bit about our technology and define that metadata term. But of course you already know what it means. But most systems that you're going to talk to, and most companies that don't have M-Files, you know, they're managing information by where it lives. So the traditional shared network folder structure, file cabinets, you know, all of those types of storage systems rely on knowing where something is. So, you know, in a shared folder structure, you got to navigate through the folders to get to the file you're looking for. Same thing in a file cabinet, you know, you have to walk to the right one, pull the right drawer, leaf through it. At M-Files, we manage information by what something is. So everything is described with metadata. And the other thing about M-Files is it's truly content management, because everything in our system is called an object. It's object driven. So a document is an object, just like a customer would be an object, or a vendor, an employee, a project. Anything that you want to describe with information can be an object within M-Files. It's 100% configurable, and every system that we install is different because it's going to be uniquely created in terms of the structure of the documents and the metadata and the objects specifically for each end user. So we're going to describe everything that we put away into our repository, and you're going to hear this term today all day long, the vault. That's what we call it. So everything's going to go in the vault, and everything's going to be described with some properties about that maybe it's an invoice, or maybe it's an employee form as a type of document. We call it class. And then all the information that you want to use to describe that type of document. So there are no folders within M-Files. You don't have to figure out where things are. You just have to know something about it, whether it's on the metadata or in the contents of the document, and you'll find it. Very easy navigation. You'll see that when we get into the demo. Very strong permissions. So one of your applications, Mark has told me, is HR, right?
Yes.
So certainly HR deals with a lot of sensitive documents. So making sure that those are strictly controlled in terms of access is going to be very important. Do you guys currently use Active Directory for your credentialing and permissions?
We do.
So all of that can be copied right into M-Files. So it's fully integrated, you know, because we are a Microsoft application as well. So all of your permissions that you have in Active Directory can be exactly duplicated within M-Files. So you don't have to do it all over again. Workflow is built into M-Files, unlike other products, and maybe the quote that you might have received about Smart Search. We don't separate out all of these different features and functionality into chargeable things. So workflow is built into the product, which ties into your Outlook for integration for email notifications, as well as assignments that'll show up in your M-Files client. You know, that's the user interface. We call it the client. And then the integration I mentioned, so the Vault looks just like another drive to Windows Explorer. So it's a virtual drive. You can file save as and drag and drop into that icon, and then you can double click on that drive icon and actually open up the Windows client. And then when we get into the software, you'll see these M-Files buttons that will be inside Word, Excel, Outlook, and PowerPoint that will add some additional functionality, and we'll actually use some of those, you know, as we get into the demo. And again, we can support either type of implementation on premise and cloud. think Mark told me you were looking at an on-premise install. Is that right?
Well, we were with the Smart Search just because that's what we've always had.
Right.
We are moving as an agency more to cloud-based stuff.
Okay.
So
we can
we're not
support
there
that.
yet, but we're shooting. That's our vision.
Well, and you can migrate. So down the road, if you get mFiles now and put it on your server, so all your data is there, your vault is there, and then a year from now or 2 years from now, you want to migrate to the cloud, then we simply migrate your vault to a cloud vault. It's a very easy process. I've had several customers that have done it both ways. I've gone from cloud to on-premise, and I've had customers go from on-premise to cloud. So it's not a difficult situation to do.
Okay.
And then Forrester, you can see we're on here the first time that they've looked at us, and so this is a little more select group. There's only, I think, 13 companies out here on their radar, and so we have every intention of moving ourselves onward and upward into the strong performers and leaders category as time goes on here as well.
Okay.
And then if you Google top 10 reviews, you could search for ECM, Enterprise Content Management, and you would eventually come to find this independent ranking they did where they rated mFiles #1 with a perfect score of 10 against some other pretty big products, IBM, Laserfish, OnBase. And I told Mark I'm giving credit even to them for joining up with Smart Search, because Smart Search is rated #2. But notice that nobody else even made it into the 9s, and mFiles has a perfect score of 10. So no doubt, if you scroll down on this page, you would find one of the check boxes that Smart Search was not able to check off was having a cloud implementation.
Right.
So, and you could check this out, but this has really generated a lot of inbound sales activity for us because we're not involved. None of these companies were involved in this independent ranking. So, I'm not going to talk about this because you're already aware of the trials and tribulations of folder management and document management and how that can help, I'm sure. And there's a lot of stats about that. You guys have probably already pretty much justified your purchase. Is that right? Or, in terms of an ROI?
Yeah. We've been looking at a new document management system for a while now, and
okay.
it did get approved in this budget, so it's something that we're looking to move forward for quickly.
Okay, perfect. So one of the things that mFiles can bring to the table against other systems, and certainly in a folder structure, is the fact that we can manage your emails all automatically. So we can automatically monitor email accounts such as invoices or job applications or whatever you want to have people send things into generic email accounts, and we can monitor those accounts and bring that information automatically into mFiles with metadata and attachments and kick off a workflow. All of that automated. Okay. But we also, and I'm going to show you how we do that, where you can simply manage your own personal emails by just dragging and dropping those emails right into the vault, and in fact into smart folders that can automatically classify them for you, so you don't even have to do that.
Okay.
And then that information now is going to show up in the same views that you want to create for maybe, I'll just use generic terms like customer view or vendor view or employee view or project view, whatever you want to classify those with, then all of that information is going to be in the same place on the ways that you want to see it. Because what mFiles does is we use all of that metadata to allow you to create what we call dynamic views. So things are going to be searchable, and you can look at a view to return relevant things to you based on your job. So the different users will be able to create their own views, and I'm going to show you how we do that as well.
Okay.
We can also manage the paper process. So if you guys are getting paper into the organization, into the association, and you need to scan that, then we can scan that and put it into a hot folder. We can even do zonal scanning on documents that you have a lot of volume of, that are the same layout, and we can actually pick up metadata from those scans and kick off a workflow when those documents are brought in. And I'm gonna actually run one of these for you and do a scan and do a workflow. We can also connect to third-party databases. So if you have other information in some other system that you want to have available in M-Files in a drop-down menu, like employee lists or vendor lists or project list or whatever it might be, as long as it's any standard format database, we can connect to it, and that's all built in. That's all built into the product to be able to do those things. Okay. And then down the road, some of your association members are no doubt healthcare companies, right? Hospitals and different things, or maybe somehow associated with healthcare. I'm not sure. Yeah. Then we have also products that can support HIPAA and SOX and ISO with our QMS and compliance products. But the DMS product is also fully compliant with HIPAA and records management regulatory things as well. So this is what the vault looks like. So there's the M drive, and then this is this is what we call the properties card that we're going to use when we classify a document. So we're going to create this structure that you see here specifically for you based on your needs and your requirements and your groups and your document types. And then once a document is saved, you'll be able to find it very quickly in lots of different ways, and we're going to show you that. Always going to have one document only. So we only store documents once, period. And from that moment on, we're only going to store the changes. So we're going to store a change to the contents as a new version, a change to the metadata as a new version, a workflow state change as a new version. Because every time a document goes through a workflow state change, we're going to capture who did it, when they did it, any comments they put in, and that's going to be tied to that specific version of the document. So you will always have an audit trail of everything that's ever done to a document.
Okay.
And then here's where we talk about the dynamic views I mentioned, which are basically just saved searches, where you're filtering out all of the metadata properties in the vault to return, the things that you want to see. Mm-hmm. And then if there's workflow tied to a type of document, so in your AP management side, with like vendor invoices, so when you have a vendor invoice document that is saved to the vault, it will automatically kick off a workflow. And then if you're manually saving it to the vault, it will show up right here in this blue box that there's workflow. The minute you click create, if there's workflow attached to it, it'll kick off the workflow.
Okay.
So I mentioned the mobile client a little earlier, but we have 3 ways to access the vault. The Windows client we're going to spend most of the time with today. You can access it using a web client. So if you're on a Mac, you could access your vault using the Safari browser. Mobile clients as well for smartphones and tablets, and those are apps available via the App Store, and I'll show you what that looks like as well.
Okay.
So in the marketplace, you've got some of these low-end products, and you guys have been looking for a while. You're probably familiar with some of these products like Box and Dropbox. They're perceived as very easy to use. Well, it's because they don't do much. They're also very inexpensive. And then you have at the high end some of these products that you've seen on some of these other charts I've shown you, maybe ranked higher than M-Files, but maybe not ranked higher than M-Files in some cases. But they always have lots of features. They're going to be very complex, many times built on 1990s technology, and typically very expensive with a long implementation cycle. So we think that we have the best of both worlds with all of these features you see at the high end, but with a product that's as easy to use and deploy as these at the low end, but priced for the small to mid-sized company. And so we think that uniquely differentiates us from everybody. So that's it on the PowerPoint. So any question about any of that before we go on?
No, not right now.
Okay. Well, like Mark said,
take it all in.
And I'm happy to provide that PowerPoint to you if you'd like me to send it to you.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay. Just making a note. So, like Mark said, Catherine, this is highly interactive. I don't have a canned demo for you. I'm going to walk you through a bunch of stuff on M-Files, and you can ask questions. Show me this. Show me that. How would you do this? I mean, I'll start showing you, how the product works, and I'll show you some stuff behind the scenes. Catherine, would you consider yourself to be somewhat technical, or are you just more of a user of technology?
Pretty technical.
Okay, good. Then you're going to enjoy when I show you the piece where mFiles is created. So mFiles is a server-based product, right? And so your data is all going to reside on the server, and your clients, all of your users, will have the Windows client. And so you can see the icon here. That's the Windows client that everybody will have on their desktop, and then somebody there will be designated as your administrator, right, of the system. So that person will have this here, the mFiles server administrator. So then this person will be able to create and manage and change and do all kinds of things to the structure and to the users and logins and credentials and manage backups and do all of those kind of things that somebody will do from your administration side. So I'm going to show you this as well as a part of this demo. And then here's the computer. And so if I double click here now, you can see there's my vault sitting out there. So it's just a virtual drive. It's called the M drive, but we can call it any letter you want. So we've had some customers said, well, we already have an M drive. No problem. It can be the Z drive if you want it to be. It really doesn't matter. The M is just our logo. So we can make this any kind of drive you want. And so then you can drag and drop. So you could search, any of your Windows directories, and you can drag and drop things into the vault. You can, from any Windows application, you can do a file save as and save things into mFiles. And so I'm going to show you how we do that. And then if you wanted to, instead of using the icon that I showed you on the desktop, you can just double click right here and it'll take you into the vault. Now, a couple times today you're going to see this. I have lots of different vaults because I do lots of different demos. So we've got some industry specific stuff. You're just going to have your one vault for UMFS. So it'll take you right here into the client. So this is
notice, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So when you went to my computer, I saw the drive. So is that is that held locally on the local, and then it pushes up to the cloud, or how,
No, so
stored in the cloud? Or
yes. Okay, so if you have if you have a cloud vault, you'll still see this exact same thing right here. Remember, this is a virtual drive. So it's not residing on if it's a cloud vault, this drive is virtual and it's sitting in the cloud.
Got it, okay.
So when you open up the mFiles client like I just did here, this client is going to connect to a server in the cloud versus a server there on your network. You, as a user, can't tell the difference. You will not be able to tell using this mFiles client whether you're connected to a cloud vault or whether you're connected to an on-premise vault, because it's identical. It's identical experience. So everything I show you today can be done whether your vault's in the cloud or whether your vault's on-premise. So this is the user interface. We call it the Windows client. And let me give you a quick tour. So immediately when any of your people open up mFiles, because you already told me that you use Active Directory, right? And so they will not have to sign in to mFiles. When they sign into their workstation in the morning, they will, when they sign in, it's going to go just like it does for me, go right to their Windows screen. And if they want to open mFiles, they'll just double click on the mFiles icon and it will go right to here. So they won't have to log in. And then each user will see some specific items for them on what I call a mini dashboard. So immediately they will see if they have any documents checked out. So what that means is we operate on a check-in, check-out process. Only one person can edit a document at a time.
Okay.
So that's how you maintain version integrity, right?
Okay.
Then the other thing, now you may have just forgot to check it in, or maybe you're still working on it and you don't want anybody else to be able to open it up to edit it. Now, if another user wants this document, so somebody else logs in and they search for it or they find it, they will get told that you have it checked out.
Okay.
So if I click one time, now the other thing I didn't mention, Catherine, with M-Files, it's so easy to remember how to use the product, because if you remember nothing else today, just remember these three things. Left click, right click, drag and drop. If you just remember those three things, you will be able to accomplish anything you want to accomplish in M-Files.
Okay.
So if I left click here one time, two things have now happened. I've got some additional information over here on my task pane, and over here on the right side of the screen, I'm now seeing all the statistics about that document. So notice it's got this little icon down here in the lower left corner. So if somebody else finds this document and it shows up on their list of documents, they'll see just by that it's checked out, and then they'll see right here who has it checked out.
Okay.
And so then they could send a message to that person if they wanted to. It says, please check this document back in. I need it.
Okay.
And then you're also...
Is there a way, so let's say someone has checked this document out, but now they go on vacation.
Right.
Is there a way that the administrator can
Yes.
check it back in for them?
Yes.
Okay.
And we just had that question yesterday, didn't we, Mark, from another demo? He's muted, so he's not going to answer. But yes, if the system administrator can always check documents back in as needed. So you're going to see all of the statistics about the document over here on the right-hand side, and then you will always see what that document is. So you can always get a preview of anything there is, no matter what type of file it is. You'll be able to see it over here in your preview pane, and we're going to spend more time looking at this here in just a second. So, so that's how you can tell who has something checked out, but you'll also see who created it and when was it last modified. Notice it says there's two versions of this document.
Okay.
So you'll always see the history over here. So if I click history, now you can see everything there is to see about a document, including what that document looks like by clicking on the preview pane. So you can actually see the preview right here within your history. So if you had 10 versions, you might want to page through and see what changes there are, or I'm going to show you in just a second how we can compare those versions together, which is very easy as well. So that's the first thing I want you to notice, the fact that you have some additional information. There's one other piece that you'll see when you log in down here. If you have a workflow assignment, then you're going to have another blue bar right down here, and it's going to say assign to me with a number in parentheses how many assignments you have. And then this piece here is documents that you have accessed recently. So now if you came in like within the last 30 days, so if you came into the vault and you needed to look at something, you don't have to even search for it or look in a view. You could just go to your list down here and say, okay, I need a document that I looked at, 3 days ago, and whatever it might be. So there's a document I want to find, and so double clicking it allows me to check it out. Or if I don't need to edit it, I could open it as read only. But to be honest, in most times, I don't even open documents. I just look at them here.
Right. Okay.
So I can see everything I need to see here in the preview pane. If it's a PowerPoint presentation, I can see it here. If it's a video, I can watch it here. If it's a CAD file, I can look at it here. It really doesn't matter. So I very rarely ever open documents unless I actually am going to use that document for something, like I'm going to edit it, or I'm creating a new document from a template, for example. So you've got this dashboard of 3 things down here that you'll see, and then the rest of this whole center section is really kind of the engine or the lifeblood that you're going to have with M-Files are all of these views. And so these views,
Okay.
there's three types. So you've got system views here, like favorites. So you can add documents to your favorites, just like you're used to doing when you work on the internet, right? You add pages,
Okay,
you
right.
add bookmarks to your favorites. Same thing here. You're just adding a document into your favorites. But really, remember in M-Files, I told you we only store things once, right?
Right.
So even though there's a list of documents here, it's really just the path we took to get to this document. So there's multiple times and multiple places that we'll be able to access the same document throughout M-Files from different views. So the same document
Okay.
can be seen many different ways. So here's favorites. Now the other thing that I didn't mention, I guess, during the PowerPoint was the fact that M-Files offers you the ability to work offline. So now
Okay.
what offline means is, how often do you or some of your users get on an airplane, or you're sitting at the beach or you're on vacation and you don't have an internet connection?
Right.
Yeah. So in most cases today in your world, you probably, if you're in a situation like that, what are you going to do? Well, you've got to make sure that you've got any documents you need access to stored on your desktop, right?
Right.
Or on your computer in your C drive. So with M-Files, you don't have to do that, because you want to maintain version integrity, and you want to maintain your business process is going to be everything we do is out of M-Files. So now I'm only going to work in M-Files regardless of whether I'm connected to the internet or not. So if you don't have an internet connection, you can't get to your server in your office, or you can't get to the Cloud Vault, right, in either place.
Okay.
So I can take any document or any grouping of documents like these views, and I can right-click, and I can mark that whole group to be available to me offline. So I've already done that with my favorites, because that's how I work in my corporate vault. I keep price lists, quote templates, some brochures, I keep some different documents that I want to have access to. So for example, when I went up to visit Mark Klein at Cobb, and we're sitting in his conference room, he didn't give me connection to his Wi-Fi, but I needed to show him price lists and some other things. I just opened up M-Files, and it asked me if I wanted to work offline, because it knew that I was not connected to the internet. And so I just said, yes, I want to work offline. And so now it's only going to show me, notice everything else is gone. And so here's my offline view, and there's my favorites, and there's all those documents. So now I can check them out just like normal. But now I get another notification reminding me that I'm working in offline mode. So if anybody else modifies any of these documents and creates a new version, when I connect back to the network, meaning I get back to my desk and hook up to your network, it's going to notify me that there's a conflict. So if this document here, I take out version 5 and I don't touch it, but when I log back in, or when I connect back in, it's now sitting at version 6, 7, or 8, or anything else other than 5, it's going to notify me there's a conflict.
Okay.
And then I can resolve whatever that conflict is by simply saying accept, or I can go modify and reject those changes and create, the right version that I want to create. Because it could be, in this case, 2 people just modified this document. Because I have it offline, somebody else back at the office could modify it, so maybe we both create version 6. So now M-Files is going to notify you you've got a conflict and let you resolve that conflict in any way that you want to. So now we'll go back online. So now we're connected back to the vault. So now we have all of our views back and everything that we want to do. So is that clear on how offline works? So you can take any one of these views or any individual document, like this advanced training request document. If I right-click on it, I could mark that document for offline use, and now it's done. But again, remember, like I told you what I do, I add it to my favorites. So now that's done.
Okay.
So now that document is going to be down here in my favorites. There it is. So now if I go offline, I have that document available to me to work on.
Okay. But other people still have access to the document.
Exactly. Exactly.
You make changes, they make changes, it's going to create additional versions.
It's going to notify you of a conflict when you log back in.
Okay.
So because M-Files is only always going to store one document, period, with the one current version. Okay, and so like we talked about, any of these documents that have multiple versions, if we find one, we already looked at history that had 2 versions. Look at this document. It's got 15 versions. So because I'm clicked on it, I now have the history here, and so now I can click this. So what this means is it's got 15 versions, but they're not all showing up here because in my demos I'm making all kinds of changes here, and it doesn't store it, because I'm just playing around with it on the demo side.
Right.
But every other system, every other change that's going to make, like here's 5 versions. So you can see there's the 5 versions, and so you can see a preview and see all of the metadata associated with each of these versions. So look, this is from our Cobb, from our client up at Cobb. And so, I could page up. Now we can see we added some text. Then we added some more text. So you can see exactly what's happening with all of these versions. Now, if I wanted to, if I had this document open, well, let's finish my tour, and then I'm going to show you how we compare, okay?
Okay.
So we started looking at views. So you have all these system views. So it's some of the same things that you can get to multiple places. Assigned to me, checked out to me, recently accessed by me. And then you've got what we call these common views. So Catherine, these are things that everybody who logs in will see based on their credentials, assuming they have the credentials to see them. So like this HR documents view, maybe only your HR team will be able to open that.
Okay.
Nobody else will have access to it. And so then you can see there's different types of documents showing up here, and that's how that view was created, to show the different types of documents. So now, there's 6 or 7 employee agreements under this one particular document, and this multi-file, this is what this means. It's a multi-file holder. So now you can see you've got the original copy and a signed copy all stored in a multi-file location, meaning it shares the same metadata as this Alex Kramer employee agreement. So everything you see over here is going to be shared by these other documents. They'll all have the same metadata when you click on it. Okay. So it's going to share that metadata. And so that's a multi-file location. And so that view was created to show things in that way, and then we can control who has access to this entire view when you create it. And of course, typically the permissions are going to restrict anybody from seeing the HR documents based on the type of document it is as well. So an employee agreement, in terms of the type of document that is, we call it a class, will be restricted only to HR people anyway.
Okay.
So you've got all these common views, and these are going to be your more generic views, right, where things are grouped together in ways that are relevant kind of to everybody. So you guys don't have customers, but you have members, right? You have association members, or
clients.
You have clients.
Our kids. Mm-hmm.
Right. So then maybe your clients, you'd have a client list here. And so then you could have another view showing documents by clients, so that you have your whole list of kids that you're doing services work with, and then under each child or under each client you can have it sorted by other information that you might want to have. So a client will be an object, right? So this is something that Mark and I talked about, and something that you're going to see as a differentiator between M-Files and Square 9. So when I take you to the back end, I'll show you how all this works. But here in M-Files, And over here on this task pane, you can see you've got these go-to buttons. So you can add any of these views over here to, it's like a quick connect kind of thing. So
Okay.
if I wanted to see, documents by clients and go into this A&A Consulting, and I wanted to have a quick connect to A&A Consulting, then I could right-click on A&A Consulting and say, add this shortcut to my task area. And so now, see right here, if I go back to the home screen and I click here, then it takes me right into that view we were just at. So, so it's a shortcut menu that you can add and subtract things from. So I can remove it just by right-clicking on it. So you can add anything that you want to see inside M-Files, no matter how many levels down your view might go. You could put a quick connect right here and be able to take a shortcut to get to it. So these are your more generic views, and so these will be things that we'll create for you. And then here is personal views. So every user will be able to create their own views right here. And so you can see things like if somebody wants to look at invoice data, somebody else wants to look at something related to their job in some service related or insurance related or housing related or whatever the different things that somebody might want to see in their job, then these views can be created, and all of that done is right here in the new menu. So here's all the new content that we have, or the objects that we have in this vault that can hold information. So you guys will have something called a client. So a client is going to be an object that's going to have data that describes it, right? Like the name and address, birth date. Maybe you guys store social security numbers, whatever, parents' names, or whatever the information is that you want to store that describes that particular client will be a part of that customer or client record. And so I'm going to show you how that gets created. Then by just simply checking a box, you can allow users to add new clients to the list. So simply by double-clicking here, I could now create a new record. This has nothing to do with the document, but you are now managing a client record within M-Files. And so anytime you're looking at a client, so if I go to Manage Clients here, and then go to this is a list of clients that exist. If I just click on it one time, now you see over here all the metadata that might exist for any one of these particular clients. And so you would see, if this is one of your kids, all of the information about that particular client. And you can add descriptive fields. You can add all kinds of properties in here simply by clicking Add Property. So it's a very, very flexible system, and I'm going to show you how this is all created. But M-Files is object-driven. So remember, anything can be an object. This is the list of just examples, sample objects. The only required object is the document object, okay? So these are all personal views created right here just by clicking here, and now you can name it and you can define your filter. Now, Catherine, you don't have to answer yes or no to this question, but most people have gone out to monster.com and created some kind of job search. You can probably answer it since your boss isn't on the call. But if you've done that, you've just really filtered out the millions of jobs out there by saying, okay, I want to look for jobs that have this title, this geographic location, maybe this salary range, and then I want Monster to send me an email once a week or something. So you fill out this filter and you name it. It's the same thing you're doing here. You're just going to name it, and you're going to define the filter to bring back things that are relevant for you. And then you could make it common, so then it shows up here for everybody, or not. And so anything that you want to create can be done, and then here's where you would just sort it in different ways. So that view we looked at, where it has documents by clients, then it has a list of customers, then it has a list of document types, and then it has the actual files. So that view, if we right-click on it and go to the properties of that view, you can now see that all we're doing is looking for documents There's no filter, but we're just sorting them by customer and by document type. So it's really looking at everything that's in M-Files. Will show up there in some way, as long as it has a customer associated with it. If a document doesn't have a customer associated with it, then it won't show up in one of these views. So in this view, it's just documents. If we right-click on it and look at the properties, now you can see that we just named it. It's common. There is no filter, so we just said the object type equals a document or document collection, period. So that means everything in the vault. So if we double-click here, now you can see it's sorted by all of these different subviews. So you can look at it by class. So then all the documents will be there by class, or by class group, or by customer. So now there's that customer list again. So it's really an all-encompassing view that we looked at here. And so it's very easy to create these views. So here's the search box. And then you have advanced search. So you can find anything in M-Files that you want to find, and you can search on in metadata or file contents or both. Remember what metadata is, right? All those properties. Or you could define that you want to search everything, or do you want to limit your search to something smaller? So maybe, because remember, M-Files is very scalable, and we have customers that have millions of documents in their vault. So you could define what you want to search from, but to be honest, I think most people just leave it at the maximum, searching in everything and everything. And so then anything you type in up here, it's going to look through everything in the vault and find it no matter where it is, whether it's a customer's name or a document type or a vendor, doesn't matter. So, and the thing that makes this searching cool with M-Files, it's better than Google. And you want to know why? So when you do a Google search, you type in some search term, and it brings you back 1,400,000 entries in, and it says 0.3 seconds. So now what do you do with those 1,300,000 entries? With M-Files, for example, if I typed in proposal, which is broad, right? It brings me back all these proposals. But now I can click this box. I could search this return again for something like, I don't know, Tim. And now within that search, it brings me back 2 documents. And then you can see there's Tim highlighted in yellow. And on this one, same place. It's in a keyword. So you can search within a return, and I could keep searching within this return looking for something else. So within this return, if I leave that box checked and I type DAT, now it only finds that one. So I could keep narrowing down my search by leaving that box checked till I get to the exact thing I'm looking for. Then the other thing that you can do is you can create down here a very, very specific search. So have you ever had your CFO come and say, I need all, I'm just going to say, invoices from this vendor for June of 2010 that were over $500? You could create that specific search right here just by building that filter in and searching for the properties, and you could find exactly the documents that you're looking for. So the search tool is very, very, very powerful. And we're going to use this as we go through the demo and creating documents and searching and finding and those kind of things. So now I've already kind of talked about the task pane. So whenever I click on a document, some new things show up. If there's workflow, so if I find an invoice here, like this invoice, when I click on that, now notice you've got some workflow things that have shown up over here. So that means, of course, I'm logged in as an admin user, so I see everything. If you are a user that has a workflow assignment, you're only going to see the workflow step that you are authorized to move it in or out of. And then over here on the right side in this metadata area, I mentioned this during the PowerPoint, you now see that there's workflow here, and then here you can see that it's assigned to John, and here's John's assignment. So that's a part of the workflow, and that always is going to be in the metadata. And then you can see this document has history, so you could look at the history and you could see, so if I close the preview because I don't want to see that, I now can see that this workflow has gone through a workflow step process, including some comments from different people that they put in. And we're going to run this workflow in just a second. But this right side of the screen, like I said, it doesn't matter what type of document or anything that you want to look for. And when you click on things, other pieces of the screen will give you more information. And it will become second nature to you in about 30 minutes. You know, that's all the time it takes for you to learn how to use M-Files. So do you guys keep pictures of your clients?
Some of our programs do.
So you can store those pictures here, and you can see them. And you can see them right here in the viewer. And then, of course, you know, a picture will be classed as whatever you want it to be type of document. And you can have metadata that describes that document, like who the client is and, you know, where are they located, maybe their address or any information you want about each one of those pictures. So you can store that information.
Okay.
You guys do a lot of PDFs, I guess?
Some PDF.
Yeah. Every PDF in them.
People scan stuff.
Right, right. And so in M-Files, all the scanned PDFs will be fully text searchable. So anything that's on the document, so you can see here, like any of these words, like Austin, we could search on Austin and find wherever that's at. So you can see it found it in the name of this document, but then it found it, you know, everywhere else on the contents. So you can see it's highlighted in yellow. So wherever we find it, and I don't remember which one of these invoices had all the annotations on it, then you know you'll see that search term highlighted in yellow. The cool thing about this now is also I'm showing you that we have this feature called annotations. So on any document, when you click on the preview, it now will pop up. Well, let's go to one that doesn't have annotations. So now this one does not have annotations. So now you can see there's the Austin highlighted in yellow. And now notice over here, it's got this new annotation button. So if I click that, it now opens up this menu right here. So now if you have a document, doesn't matter what it is, Word document, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF, going through some kind of review process through a workflow, different people can add different comments and different arrows and circles and lines and whatever you want to add onto this document. And the cool thing about M-Files is that every one of those will be its own annotation object. So let's say Catherine puts one on here. It'll say that this was done by Catherine, because remember those stats? It'll show those in the stats up here for that annotation. Then if Catherine saves her annotation and then it goes to Bob, then Bob's annotation will be a separate object because it's going to show that Bob added an annotation. And all of that's going to be tracked and monitored by M-Files. And so then you could hide the annotations, you can show them, you could print the annotation, the document with annotations or without. You can save it with annotations. So it's a really, really flexible tool. So I just wanted to show you that real quick because that's new in our newest feature. In our newest release that came out like 3 or 4 weeks ago, version 10.1. So now have that annotation object capable. So now notice from the home screen, you've got a lot of help, videos and tours, and you've got the user's guide and technical documentation. So all your people, if they forget how to do something and somehow they've forgotten left click, right click, drag and drop, they'll be able to get help right here online. And then you've also got the ability to create new things and add a document from the scanner if you have one directly connected to your workstation. So like here I'm at my desk, you know, I've got my little $100 HP all-in-one. I scan stuff into my vault all the time. And just click that and it scans it, and then it asks me if I want to convert it to a fully text searchable PDF, and I say yes, and then the properties card will pop up and I classify it with some information. So that's just a very quick tour of the user interface, and I know I've jumped around a lot, but you want to see the server administrator piece?
Sure. Yeah.
So we won't spend a whole lot of time here, but so this is my server, and then here's all my vaults, and here's the vault we were working in, and here's the structure of mFiles data. So I told you about these object types. So here's that list. And so we will create this structure for you during the implementation.
Okay.
And we're going to provide you with some planning documents that will help you with this process. So,
Okay.
Catherine, we do this, you know, we're installing, I think, on average, 2 or 3 new systems every single day. So we pretty much have seen everything, and we have a lot of experience. So during the time frame between the time you order and the time we install it, it's going to be about 3 weeks or 4 weeks for lead time to get onto the consultant's calendar. So that's something else that you want to consider is when you want to implement mFiles, we need to back up, you know, we need to back up 3 or 4 weeks, and that's when the order needs to be placed.
Okay.
And I know you said you were kind of ready to do it now, so the sooner we can get it done, if this is the product that you think would be the best one for you, you know, Mark can provide you with a proposal, and you know, we can get this started very quickly for you. But in any case, during that time frame is when you're going to be planning how you want your vault to look. So we'll provide you with a best practices document, an implementation guide document, a spreadsheet that you can use to start filling out your structure, and so those kind of things that will help you and help you and your team plan for your implementation. And then before the implementation starts, the consultant that gets assigned will contact you probably through me or Mark and set up a conference call to go over any questions you might have, ask questions, and if you've gotten some of those documents done, you know, you can send those in, and so everybody's working off the same page. And that just makes it so that everybody's ready come implementation day. And we do that remotely on 90% of our cases. So unless you need somebody on site for any particular reason, we can do everything over GoToMeeting and TeamViewer to install the software on your server and get your clients installed and do all of that work. But so this is the object. So bear in mind, anything can be an object, right? In the vault, the only thing that's required is the document object. So for example, here's a doctor's office customer of mine down in Florida. You can see their objects are patients, appointments, caregivers, child, totally different than the objects that I just showed you in my other little demo vault, right? Same thing with a real estate office. So here's a real estate group, and so you can see their objects are agents and brokers and clients and escrow office and lender. So all of these things, what's the commonality between all of them? They just have information that describes them. That's what makes an object. If it's not an object, it means it doesn't have information that describes it, then but you want to control what people enter, you don't want to just let them free type, then you're just going to create lists. So if you want to have a drop-down menu for somebody, then we'll just create a list, and then when that property, like topic, is on a document, so I'm going to right-click here and go to Contents, this is what they'll see. Breast cancer, clinical trial, funding, prostate cancer. This is for a demo that we did yesterday or the day before for another hospital association, I guess it was, or somebody. I can't remember who it was I did it for. But oh no, this was for a government group, National Cancer Institute. That's who this was for. And so it's just that easy to create these lists. Now, if you want to have information that describes something, then all you do is convert that list to an object and then start adding metadata. So like the project object here, if I right click and show you contents of this object, you can see all these lists of projects, right? That list was created here and converted to an object, and then we just started adding the descriptive terms. So you have a customer or internal, so that's the first level. If it's a customer project, then we just added these different properties to this list. So, and how do we do that? I know you know the answer. Right click. I could add a property definition right here to this. In this case, it's a record, right? So we have a project record. So it's not even a document. So in mFiles, we have these object types, and then you have the ability to group them together in meaningful ways. This is simply to make it easy to find what you're trying to save when that properties card pops up. I showed you the properties card, during the PowerPoint. So this is where that structure is defined. So if we go to document, now you can see these different groups. And again, it's just to make it easy. Anything can be done. You don't have to have groups if you don't want to. You could just have your long list of different document types. Then under each group, you can see we have the actual document types. So under purchasing and sales, now there's this list of all kinds of different types of documents. So there really is no limit to how many different types of documents you want to have and what different types of metadata you want to have to describe that document. So like a proposal, you can see the last level in our data structure are the properties or the metadata for that type of document. Some of these will be required because, again, you're setting the ground rules for your users, and then the rest of them will be optional. And again, all you do to change that is right-click. So now proposal number is a required property, but I could change it to optional. Effective through is an optional property, but I could change it to required. If it was required over here in the client, then I click on this document, then you'll see this little asterisk here. That makes that a required property. So somebody couldn't save it without adding that information. So here in the server is where we're going to create that structure for you. And then we're also going to create and manage your hot folders. We call it external sources, and your email. So if you want to have an email account that we monitor, we'll set that up here. Here's where you're going to scan documents into any number of folder locations from your network scanner. And I'm sure Mark has probably sold you some really good equipment. And so right from the scanner keyboard, you can send it right into the right folder. And then here we're going to define what happens when it comes into that folder. And then we'll also create and manage all your workflows here. And so you can have any number of workflows. They can be as complex as you want them to be. They can even have scripting, calling third-party applications, and all of that, everything that I'm talking about and showing you is included in mFiles. There are no extra charges. The only thing that we charge for above and beyond the user licenses is that I'm aware that you would need is the OCR module and the consulting or professional services to create your vault and do the implementation and training. Those are the only three things that would be on the list for you. Okay. So the quote's very simple. And then here is where you're going to manage your users and their login accounts down here, and then backups would be managed here. I can right-click and set up a backup job, and you've got the master database in the vault, full backup or differential. So I don't know if you want to know about all of these things at this moment, but so this is where we can create your structure, and then once the installation is done, somebody there will have access here to the system, to the administrator, and be able to add things and make changes and do things that you want to have done, and we'll train them on how to do this as a part of the implementation.
Okay, so for users, you said this incorporates with Active Directory.
Correct.
So if we add something in Active Directory, is it going to automatically get added to
Correct.
mFiles?
Correct.
Okay.
Your Active Directory structure will be automatically copied here into mFiles.
Okay.
And then
this just shows you the accounts. You don't really.
Right.
I mean, like, why would you add an account in mFiles if you're adding it already in Active Directory?
You wouldn't.
Okay.
But see, not everybody has Active Directory.
Not everyone has it. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so if you don't have Active Directory in place, then you need to be able to add new users and manage groups and do all this kind of stuff here.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so let's create a document from scratch. So now, remember I talked about that integration? So there's the integration with M files with Microsoft Word. And so you can see it adds some additional functionality here, and we'll use that in just a second. But let's create just a proposal.
Now, is M-Files compatible with other versions of Word other than Office 2010, or because we're still on 7?
Yeah, 2007, 2010, 2013.
Okay.
In fact, I think it even goes back to 2003.
Okay.
So yeah, this same thing will happen when you install it. It will automatically integrate. You won't even know it, and it'll just show up here like this. And so now we've got this new proposal we've created. So we're doing this from scratch, but remember I said we also can work with templates, so I'll show you templates in a second. So now from any Windows application, you can do a file save as, and it just defaults right to M-Files. And you just click Save. And now here's that properties card. So here's that structure that I just showed you over in the Server Administrator. So now proposal we know lives here, and so I just would select the proposal. And then it populates that metadata list that I showed you. You can see some of it's required. So literally within about 3 seconds, we can classify this document. So here's the customer coming from a list. Now this list I didn't show you in the server comes from a connection to a third-party database. And then we're all done. Basically at this point I could just click create, and it saves this document to M-Files. Now I'll show you while we're here though a couple of other features of the properties card. So now you can have fields that properties here that relate to each other. So like this project, do you guys have projects that you work on?
We do. So
you could have a list of projects. Notice there's only 3 on this list, but I showed you the list of projects in the Server Administrator was much longer. The reason being is because I've already selected a customer. If I delete this customer and go back here to project, now you can see it's a much longer list. And then I could select this project, and notice now it's asking me, do I want to auto-populate? And look, it added the customer and the contact.
Oh, that's cool.
So I can fill out multiple fields at a time. And then I can also put dates on here. So not only do we have the document date, I could put like an effective through date. So this proposal, the prices are only good for 30 days or whatever. And then I could use any of this information, like this date, to create a view that shows me proposals that are expiring within a certain time period. And whenever this date falls within that filter, it'll show up on the list. Then notice at the bottom, who can see this document? Everybody. But I could change it, and these will be built for you. So if I said, only for me, then, now it's just me, demo user. That's what I'm logged in at. Or if I wanted to change it to a smaller group, company management, now it's going to be company management. So you can define on the fly who can have access to a document. Normally, it's going to be controlled by what type of document it is. So if this was an HR document, let's go to HR and say that this is a termination notice. Now, notice that it says that the object's permissions were changed because of this class. You can see now that only 3 people can see it, and I'm not even one of them. So it can be limited automatically by the type of document that you select. And the same thing with workflow. If we had said this was an invoice, like a vendor invoice, then it's all automatically going to stick this workflow right onto this document. So the minute I save it, it would kick off that workflow.
Got it. Okay.
So let's just leave it as a proposal, and we click create. And so now we have saved this document to M-Files. We haven't checked it in yet, so now we just close it. So now if you let this timer go or you click no, then it'll close it, but it won't check it in. But if we click yes, then it checks it into M-Files, and now it's in the vault, so I can find it lots of ways, right? Number one should be right here on this on our recently accessed list if I refresh it. And so if I go recently accessed by me, then there's that proposal that we just created. on that list. Or I could find it based on anything that is on the contents or the document. So I just typed in UMFS and it found it immediately. And so now you can see that here's the proposal that we just created. And I clicked away from it real quick, but you saw all the metadata. And so now it's going to present this document. The first time it reads it, it takes a few seconds longer, but from that moment on, if it clicked on it again, then it would be very quick. But now you can see the term highlighted in yellow, and then there's all the stats about it. So if we change it, so if we add something like Catherine, I hope I spelled that right. No, I didn't.
No, E-R-I-N-E.
Got it.
That's fine.
So there's Catherine. So now we save that. Notice we now have version 2. And of course, I could find this document by typing in Catherine, and it immediately finds the same document, highlights Catherine in yellow. And, we'll have history, just like we had before, showing the history of this document. But now I'm going to show you the integration piece. Do you guys create a lot of Word documents?
Yes.
Okay, you're going to love this.
We have lots of Word documents.
Let's check it out. So notice when you check a document out, it opens it up in whatever its native format is, Word, PowerPoint, Excel. It's going to open it up in whatever the software is that created it. Well, let's add something to this, like 1,000 clients. Now I'm just going to click my diskette here. So I just saved it to the vault. Okay, let's go up here to M Files. Now I can click. Notice we're sitting here in Microsoft Word. I'm just going to click Compare.
Okay.
It takes me right into the vault and allows me to choose any prior version. Click OK, takes me right back to Word, shows me the 2 versions I chose and what's different between them. I know you got to love this.
Yeah, my screen was taking a little bit of time to refresh, but
oh, okay.
There.
Are you on?
I mean, I am. I see the I see the compare now.
Okay, now you can do all that.
Yeah. Okay.
So that you can accept, reject, track, do whatever you want to do with that document in between those 2 versions. You can now create a new version if you wanted to between those 2 versions. So
got it.
So now if we check it back in, we now have version 3 of this document. Now, if somebody, and I speculate you've had cases where somebody has made a bunch of changes to a document that they shouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
So in your normal mode of operandi, it's hard to recover from that because you don't necessarily have the old version. You just have one document stored somewhere out in your folder.
Well, we do in backups, but
well, you'll be lucky.
That's not fun finding.
Yeah, you'll be lucky if you can find it, and you'll be lucky if you actually have the right backup that you want. So now in this document, if I went to the history and all of these changes are bad changes, and I want to roll back, click here, click roll back, and now I could roll back to that version, which will create a new version. And so now this version here, if we look at preview, is going to be the same without the information, the 1,000 clients that we added. See, they're gone. But this version has the 1,000 clients. This version does not, because we rolled back. So we basically created another copy of this document, which is now the current version. So the other thing about M-Files, Catherine, is the only version that can ever be checked out to be edited is the current version. So if somebody came in here and came into the history and said, I'm going to open up this first version, double click, see what it says? It's not the latest version, it's read-only mode. You cannot edit this document.
Got it.
So it controls that so that you don't have anybody ever opening up an old version of a document. Okay, and so now that document that we just created, we added some stuff to it, right? So if we look at it here on our recently accessed list, we got customer on it, and we've got a contact, we've got a project, And we've got all that information, so that document is going to be findable in some of these views, right? So if we went to a customer view and went to this customer, now you can see everything associated with that customer. Projects, documents, contacts, and if I look here, there's our proposal that we just created that shows Catherine.
Okay.
Same thing if we went to a project view, because it has that metadata on it. If we go to this list of projects and look at all projects and go to that logo design project, same information, here's their documents, and there's ours that we just created, and there's Catherine. And so this document is not stored in all these places, right? This is just a different path that we're taking to get to that one location. Everything is searchable and stored via metadata or contents, so we can find anything that we want. So anything can be done in M-Files. Now, remember we put that expires through or effective through date on that document?
Yes.
So it's got 8/28. So now notice I have a view here called Proposals Expiring. Let's look at this view. I right click on it and go to Properties. So now I gave it a name and I defined the filter that I'm looking for a document. The days to this property effective through are less than 30 from today. So this means today. And I said the class equals proposal. Catherine, I swear to God, it took me 15 seconds to create this view. So now our proposal should be showing up here at the top of the list. And there it is. And there's Catherine, because it meets that filter, you know, that date, because I looked at all the properties and looked at all the documents in the vault, and so I'm looking for any proposal that has a date within 30 days of today. And so that's why it's showing up there. So if I change that date, if this vendor calls and says, I can't pay in 30 days, okay, so we'll give them 60 days, and I save that, look, now it's gone.
It goes away.
It goes away because it doesn't meet that 30-day criteria on that filter, okay? All right, so now I've shown you lots of stuff here. I know that the workflow is very important to you.
Yeah.
Let me show you how workflow works in M-Files and how easy it is to make these workflows. So, and we're going to tie this workflow in to this hot folder. So you can scan a document, and I think one of the things is AP management, right, for you guys?
Yes.
So you get your invoices in, some of them paper, maybe some of them via email.
Correct.
So here, if somebody sends you a paper invoice, you're going to scan it into this hot folder. So here's the location of that folder. And then M-Files is going to import it and delete the source file. And we're going to monitor that hot folder. In this case, since this is a demo, I just have it set for 10 seconds. You might not monitor each of your hot folders that often in real life.
Right.
But you could set it up to, you know, check it every couple minutes or whatever. And then here's where we're going to pick up the metadata. So we're going to automatically assign that this is a purchase invoice created by the scanner. We're going to stick this workflow on it when it comes in. And now here we're going to use information off of the invoice. So we know this layout of this vendor's invoice. And then we can pick up the invoice number, the buyer, and the dollar amount, you know, off of the location on the page. And we do that by defining where it lives. So we have the upper left corner and the lower right corner of that information. Anything we see there is going to be called dollar amount. And so we can set up as many sources as you want. So any fields that you want. If you have, so you guys have probably a pretty long list of vendors, right?
We do.
So, but you probably have your top 10 or 20. So
Yeah, I'm not sure how many we have, but it's quite a few, and probably all their invoices are different.
they are.
So how do you determine, you know, like how do you OCR something like that?
So if you want to, we can still OCR it, but if you want to pick up metadata automatically through the OCR,
Right.
then
Okay,
we would
right.
need to know the layout. So that's why I said you probably have your biggest volume vendors, so your top 20 maybe. So then
Uh-huh.
get those 20 invoices, you'll give them to us, we'll create this scanning process, and you'll tell us we want this field, this field, this field, this field, this field, and we'll design all of that for you during the implementation. And and it's not hard, believe me, because I'm a dumb sales guy and I did this one. Okay, it's very easy to do. So we simply so if you gave me an invoice from one of your vendors, you're going to send it to me. It's probably going to be in a PDF, right? I'm going to take that PDF and I'm going to open it up in Microsoft Paint, and I'm going to move my cursor to the fields that you want. And when I move the cursor in Microsoft Paint, it gives me the pixel counts for the X and Y coordinates. And so that's what those are here that you see. Those are the X and Y coordinates in pixels for the upper left corner of that field and the lower right corner. So anything in this rectangle, could be a square, could be a rectangle, anything in here, I'm going to look and read, and it's going to be now called amount. Or in the other field, it's going to be called invoice number. So anything I see in this location, I'm going to put it into mFiles as metadata under the property invoice number. So we can do this with your, it makes sense to do it with your biggest volume vendors. The other vendors, maybe we can't pick it up off of the scan, but we can certainly bring it in, kick off the workflow, and then a part of the assignment for the first person that gets it might be to add some additional information. Okay, so it's very simple process, and then we're going to turn the whole thing into a searchable PDF using our OCR module to do that. So now here's the workflows. And so here's the workflow that's tied to that hot folder and to that document type. And you can see here it says this workflow is tied to this class of document. So anytime that class of document is saved into mFiles, it's going to kick off that workflow. But this is just going to be, in this case, it's just 5 steps. So here's the first step, and this is just the title of the step. If I edit it, I won't go through all the things that we can do, because Catherine, believe me, we can do anything that you want to do in your workflow. So here's the actions, and look, there's all kinds of things, including scripting. We can add VB script to do anything you want, but typically in most cases we're just assigning it to somebody, right? So we're going to assign this to a user in the list. So it happens to be me, but I could remove me, I could add somebody else. The whole list comes up. So this is how you build the workflow. And then here's my actual assignment that I'm going to get. So I have to check this, add the general ledger code, due date, and now I have to assign who gets it next, because in this example, it's a project-related invoice, so it doesn't always go to the same person. So now, depending on who I put in the metadata, is who this is going to route to, and notice I have a 3-day deadline. If I don't complete this action within 3 days, mFiles is going to ping me again. They're going to notify me again, you have not completed this action, and then if they don't do it within the deadline, you could set up another escalation process to send it to a group or a manager or some other activity. Then the next step, again, we can do all kinds of stuff, is going to be assigned to, we don't know yet, depends on who the first person puts in there, and they have to approve this invoice, and they also have 3 days. So there's nothing that we can't do for you. Then the next step, of course, is going to be assigned to somebody, John, and he has to write the check and add it to their accounting system. So this workflow assumes there's no integration with an accounting package, which we do a lot of integration with, like Microsoft GP and some other accounting packages. But
have you ever done Blackbaud?
No. Now, remember, integration and database connection are not the same thing. So we could connect to data. So remember when I was showing you these objects, right? So like here, the customer object, if I right-click on it and show you the list of customers, by going to Contents, we have all this list of customers. But it's coming from this connection to a third-party database. So as long as it's a standard format database, then we can bring that information in. And so here you see all of those columns, in this case, from the SQL tables. And so this is what makes up that record for a customer. And so when you look...
I'm
Go ahead.
speaking out.
Go ahead.
So we use a SQL database for our for our client.
Yep.
So we would be able to create that script to where it would go to that database. And
Exactly.
if we entered a client name, that could create an object as one of our clients.
So when we would define this connection here to your SQL database. And here is where we define what information you have in that database for each client. So you can see customer name, address, city, state. So whatever the columns that you have in those SQL tables, this will be able to be brought in, and then it can also be set up to be bidirectional. So remember, on the properties of this object, see this box here? Users can create objects of this type. So once we've established that database connection to your SQL tables, should you desire, you can check this box. Now, this whole list of customers, remember I showed you the contents, can be maintained and added to from the mFiles client simply by creating a new customer. Once
Can it just go one way though? Like, could we only have it pull from the database?
You can have it go only one way.
Want people to create a,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's entirely up to you.
I want people to create a customer here to go to the database because we need more information in the database.
Well,
I was just thinking this would be a way to create the structure for all the clients.
Absolutely.
Just basic demographic information.
You can set this correct connection up to be one way only. So then everything's populated from your database. So there is no allowance to go back to the database from mFiles.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Cool. So we can connect to the data, and then all of that will be available in drop-down menus for whenever that property is selected. Okay. So we were looking at the workflow. For this workflow, let's go run the workflow, and we'll show you how it all ties in to Outlook and everything. So let's go to my desktop here. Let's find our hot folder out here on the server for purchase invoices. So now this is where, from your MFP or your scanner, you're going to pick this folder to scan into. So let's grab this invoice. You can see it's a TIFF file.
Okay.
And this is that folder that we're monitoring, and we set it up for 10 seconds, remember? So sometime in that 10-second window, we'll see this invoice. We'll pick it up, convert it, bang, there we did it, and stick it in the vault. So now it's gone. So now remember, we haven't accessed it yet, so it's not going to be on our recently accessed list. So it's going to be in a couple of other places within mFiles. So remember, I assigned it to me, right? Remember that I showed you that dashboard in the beginning? So if I go to the home screen, and then once it gets done, indexing, you can see it's still thinking about it here for a second. It's going to show me my assignment now here on my home screen, and let me complete that workflow right from here. I also could search for it by typing in invoice or something easy like that. So this, I don't know, computers sometimes don't cooperate as well as you'd like them to. So that took a little longer than it normally would. I don't know why.
That's okay.
But so here's my invoice sitting on my Assign to Me screen. And, I could find it by typing in invoice as well. And it finds all the invoices in the box. Now, another thing that I didn't show you was any of these columns, you can sort simply by clicking on it. And now it sorts it with the most current on top. And now there's the invoice that we just did. And so then you can see here's all the metadata. So we found a dollar amount, an invoice number, and this buyer information off of the scan. So now you can look at the preview of the document, and you can see that that's correct. This kind of small type, Catherine, how would I zoom in?
I can see it. I'm good.
Well, but I'm trying to prove a point.
Oh, you could right-click or right-click?
Yeah, I can right-click, and zoom in if I need to see something, and then you can move around up and down, and then you can see the dollar amount, 52,965. So it looks like that all matches. So we did a good job of evaluating that text through the OCR process, and now you can see it's assigned to me, and there's my assignment. Let's go check our email. So let's go open up Outlook and do a quick send receive. So there's an assignment automatically sent to me by mFiles. Now, again, I forgot to show you something about mFiles, although I did show you a little bit. Remember when we had things in the vault and I showed you we could right click on it and do all kinds of stuff? So if I go back to my recently accessed list and go to our proposal and right click on it, remember I showed you taking it offline and I showed you adding it to favorites? But also you can do other things like check it out for co-authoring, which means you could set up a SkyDrive session. So if you have somebody that doesn't have access to mFiles, like somebody outside your group, but you want to have them edit a document, but you want to maintain version integrity always, right? So you put this document out on SkyDrive, you check it out, so now nobody else can check it out, and you could give this link to 4 people, 5 people, 10 people, and those 10 people can edit that document, and you could even check a box that says they can all see each other's changes. Then when you're ready, you could check it back in and you could see all the changes that people made. And then you could create your final version or your current version of that document. You can also communicate this document internally and externally lots of different ways. So within mFiles, just like that email that we just got, I could click this and send a link, and it immediately opens up your Outlook and attaches it to an email. Now, I've been at mFiles now for over 2 years. I've never sent or received an email that had an attached file, not once. Everything we do is via links because everything we do goes in our vault. And so I could do it that way, or I could get the shortcut. So now you can see I can send or get this shortcut and do all kinds of different things with it. And so I could put it on a Word document. You guys said you use a lot of Word documents. Right click and paste it. So now you could create a document that you use internally where people have, it has links to presentations or it has links to procedures or process documents or whatever, and somebody gets it and they click on the link and it takes them right to that document in the vault. They just have to have an mFiles user license to be able to do that.
Right.
So you can use these URLs in spreadsheets. We use them for scanning receipts in. So I use my phone to scan receipts into the vault when I'm on the road. I never bring the receipts home, and I classify them as a receipt. That's the type of document, how much it is, and what's my purpose. And then I create my expense report from a template. Now I don't have an expense report template here in my demo vault, but once I do create that expense report, then I just link all the receipts right to the cell on here on the description. So if this was lunch, and then I want to hyperlink that document we just created, let's pretend that's a receipt that I scanned in, right to there. Well, that took me 3 clicks, 4 clicks. So now when my boss gets my expense report, he just clicks on the link here if he has a question, and it takes him right to that document in the vault. So you guys use a lot of spreadsheets, I think you said as well. So you can create lots of documents from templates and pre-assign metadata so that it populates onto the form. So anytime you have a document here, so all of this metadata can be populated onto the document, in where you have these bracketed areas. You can just insert these properties. Remember on the Word, there was an mFiles button there, right? And you can insert properties. So when you open this document up and you complete those properties, like the date, and you pick a customer, whatever it is, and then you add, the proposal number will show up, keywords will show up. So if we type in Catherine again here, and then we type in something like that, So now when we open the document from the template, it now creates and puts all of that information in those locations. So, and then you can customize it, just like you would whatever you're trying to do. And so then you can save your document back to the vault and check it back in. So now you've created a new document from this template. And any document that you have that you want to be a template, remember, we're all metadata, right? This has a property on it that says it's a template, yes. So if you guys have a bunch of Word documents that you use as templates, you're just going to drag and drop them into M-Files, classify them with whatever type of document it is, and that'll pop up your list of metadata, and then you'll add that this document is a template. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah. So, this document that we created today down here that has Catherine in the metadata, remember? I could add a property to it right here, and just if I type I, then it takes me to all the properties in the list, and I could say this document is now a template, save it, and then when I go to templates, this proposal 8105 will now show up on that list. So if we go to, our templates view here, then there it is, document 8105, proposal 8105. And if I take this away, say no, save it, then it goes away from that list, because that's just a view showing documents that have that property on them as a yes. So anyway, I kind of interrupted Outlook to show you that in the vault. So now I could open my invoice right from here and complete my workflow, and it shows me all the information, my assignment, the due date, and all of that stuff. But then, of course, it also shows up here on my home screen. So now I've got my workflow stuff here, my assignment, and so I just complete my assignment. Add the GL code, due date, and the project info, right? So the due date, again, this is a vendor invoice, so this guy's got 30-day terms. The project from the list, whatever it is, and then who's the project manager that's going to approve this? I just signed myself, but then notice it has an asterisk here by GL code, so it's required, but I'm going to forget to do it. So see, it tells me that I must do this. So I just put in whatever that is and click Save. So now I've done my work, so now I just move it to the next step. And this is where I could put in a comment if I wanted to, but I don't have to, because remember, M-Files is tracking and knows who did this and when. And so now that document has been moved to the next step, but it still shows up here because I signed myself as the project manager. Now the reason I usually do that before was then I could show you what it looks like on your phone, but the new version that we came out with that has new mobile apps, I don't have that here on the demo to show you in a simulation. So what I'll do is show you a view. So this is my smartphone. This is my M-Files company phone. So there's my M-Files app. See, I don't even have to open it. I don't know why I did that. So I can just show it here. So then you can see there's my M-Files app, and if I tap that, then it looks like this. So now notice my assignments. So this will show up in there in my assignment, but remember, I also got an email, right? So it's going to show up in my email that I got this assignment. But look, I could also look at my favorites. I could look at recent documents I've accessed. I could search the vault, and I could look at those views. So I could see all of the views that you see here in this vault, I could see from my phone. But if I tap assigned, then it shows me this picture. So this is another screenshot. So there's my 7 assignments. And so now if I select one, notice it's got the caret over here, then it's going to show me the properties of that invoice and allow me to select different things at the bottom. So now I could view it, and then I could tap workflow, and it comes to here. And so then this little caret here allows me to choose what I want to do. So remember all those different states in this workflow? So once I click approved, then that workflow will be approved, and it will say it'll be done. So you've already sent it to that. And if you went back to assignments at that point, then it would only show 6 because you completed this assignment right from your phone, and the little box pops up that shows you if you want to add any comments to it, just like it does here before. And so then you can move it right through the workflow if you wanted to, right from your phone. Also in email, you can, for example, here's an email that has an attachment, and you can see it's a confirmation of order from a customer. Now, remember I said about the integration, so you have M-Files buttons up here, but you also will see your vault over here on the left side of the screen on in your folder list. So now I can get this into M-Files lots of ways. Save it here. I can right-click on it, save it to M-Files. You won't have to pick a vault like I do, or I could simply just drag it and drop it. And if I dragged it into the vault, you would expect to have to classify it, right? But what if you didn't have to do that? So now I can create this smart folder here, right-click, show the M-Files properties that's already going to predefine information about that email and not ask me to even classify it. So now it's in the vault, just like that. And then I would delete it out of my inbox. But now I can go to M-Files and I could search it, for example, like if I typed in confirmation. So then it finds everything in the vault that's a confirmation, and of course it will show up in any views associated with that, like confirmation of order, and if it found a customer in the email address, it's going to find that there as well. So I don't know what I've done to my laptop here that's causing things to slow down all of a sudden, but this is obviously you've already seen a lot of the searches. It's very fast, so I don't know what's actually doing right now, but I'm sure it'll wake up here in a second. Okay, so now it woke up. So now you can see, you can sort again, make sure the most current's on top. So now you can see it's a green multi-file holder, and there's the attachment, there's the email, and it found a customer in our database from the email address. So now this email will show up in a customer view, and right from here I can double click and open this email. I could click reply, and it automatically opens up and works through that integration with Outlook. So now this email will be stored with any of the views that I have that I think are relevant for this communication. So if I went to that customer view and looked at ESTT, for example, then that email is going to be there. And so this time and date is the time actually of the email. So you can integrate with Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel. You can store any kind of document here within the vault. You can scroll through a PowerPoint. You can do anything you want. What else can I show you? And I apologize that we've taken a long time, but
yeah, no, that's okay. It's a lot of stuff to take in. So I think I just have to absorb it. But it's very cool. I guess the next step is to actually, you said you recorded this presentation, so I can share it. With
yes, yeah. If you have, if somebody's willing to sit down and listen to me ramble on for an hour and a half, they can listen to it.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it's all good information, and I will get the recording to you. What I'll do is once it converts from a GoToMeeting recording, I'll put it out on my YouTube channel. I'll send you a link to it so that you can watch it, and then I'll also send you this PowerPoint that I used.
Okay.
And as far as your user counts and those kind of things, Mark, do you have all of that information that we could provide her with a proposal?
Yep. Yeah, I absolutely do.
Okay. So I think you'll find it probably not only more powerful and flexible than what you were looking at, but maybe also a little cheaper.
Okay. What was I going to ask? So, Mark, you had mentioned something about collaboration with like Office 365 and things like that. How does that fit in?
Well, that's what I just showed you. Everything that I showed you here today, this integration.
That's all because that's all the 365 piece.
It can be whether you have Microsoft Office on-premise or you have Microsoft Office 365 in the cloud. Either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, right now we're here. We're just looking, some of the things that are on our Vision or Office 365 and things like that. So, and, going to the cloud and...
Same thing with your Outlook. If you have Office 365 and your Outlook now is, hosted Outlook in the cloud, you'll still see your M-Files folder over here and do everything I just showed you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because we have lots of documents that are emailed all the time, and it just takes up so much space in our email server. Especially when we're working in budget time. They have to email every version, and it's kind of confusing. But
well, see, this way, everybody's working from the same document, and anytime there's a change to it, you want to see something else that's cool. So any document that's in the vault, doesn't matter what it is, so like the document that we created today, you can set up to be notified when somebody makes a change to this document.
Got it. Okay.
So you can get, M-Files will send you an email saying this document has been changed. So you can follow it. You can also add it to your favorites right from here. Now, we talked about those vendor invoices that are from your smaller vendors, so maybe you're not going to OCR them to the point where it picks up metadata. So somebody is going to, so maybe the first step in your workflow is going to be that somebody has to enter information. So how would they do that if they have to see the document to enter information into the metadata card? Right here. So I can just pop out the metadata card, show the preview of it here. So now I can be looking at the invoice number, the dollar amount, whatever, and start adding that information right here to the metadata card, to the properties card.
Okay.
So now you can see both of them at the same time instead of toggling back and forth right here.
Right.
Because what a pain that would be, right? If you're looking at an invoice and, okay, I got to enter some information here. Okay, where's it at? What's the information? Then go back to here. So we figured that out, that you can just pop it out and do it all at one time. So now you can just enter information here.
Preview.
Right. So how cool is that for efficiency improvement?
That is very cool. So now if you can incorporate the one-touch, I forget what it's called, you just have your key, whatever Smart Search uses, you just highlight it and it automatically populates it. Instead of having to retype it. What is that called, Mark?
That's a database validation. So, I think you're referring to the, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I got confused if I was on mute or not, and then a thing came up that said I'm on some internet weird application. I don't know. Anyway, so you were referring to what Smart Search calls data exchange. And
no, I'm talking about the key, so you don't have to key it, you just highlight it.
So you're talking about key-free entry, and that's point and shoot indexing or point and shoot OCR, and that really is this, one of the sizzle points for Smart Search. They are not the creators of that technology. They don't have a patent on that technology. Anyone that does any heavy-duty indexing, where we're doing a lot of scanning, we can always look at a front-end capture software that'll absolutely allow you to do all the point-and-shoot key-free indexing, and then we can ship that document with the metadata to M-Files.
Right.
Right. So on the hot folder over in the server, so they can ship the documents into the hot folder, and instead of us getting, so if I go to the hot folders here, instead of us getting information from on these fields or any information at all, it can be coming from a file. So we're not picking anything up from the scan. So see right here, we can pick information up from an XML file, And so we work with lots of different capture programs on the front end that can do just what Mark described, and then they'll hand the image over as well as an XML file. And so we can pick up all of that data. So like even on any one of these fields, we can read it from an XML file as well instead of an OCR value source. So there's lots of flexibility within M-Files on how we can get that metadata in, again, to try to improve your efficiency, improve your business processes.
Right. Okay. Well, cool. Well, I appreciate your time. And if you could just get me that information, I will share it.
Okay.
With others.
Okay.
So,
thanks very much, Catherine.
Hey, Catherine, how quickly do we need to turn a solution? We know we're going with something, right? So and I'm showing you this product because I really feel like this product is going to serve your.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, maybe you and I can have a conversation.
Sure. That'd be perfect. I can call you later or call you tomorrow.
That would be great. Yeah, tomorrow would be great.
Okay, Catherine, I'll do that. That'll work.
Okay, that sounds great.
Thanks for your time today.
Okay, thanks, David. I appreciate it. And I'll talk
Catherine,
to you soon, Mark.
Thank you very much. We look forward to working with you.
Okay.
Everybody take care.
Thank you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.